Hello everybody, I am Vince, and I am going to do the tutorial on how to do hair and eyes for non-tablet users. I did this video last night, but I'm redoing it because I was so tired and so drained that it was not a good video, and I wanted to redo it to really hype up and actually more explaining and everything else. I just really didn't care. Alright. Alright. So the first thing I'm going to do is the hair. And I'm going to just do a normal blue. The best thing about this is that it will probably be... You could probably do this with like any program. And you just gotta really figure out what you're trying to use and everything. What I'm doing now is gonna unselect everything. If you line it, it should, if it had a fine line or a solid line, a non-opening one, around the hair or around wherever you're trying to like color in, it's 10 times easier to erase, I feel, because, you know, you're not actually having to sit here and color all the edges and everything else and zoom in really quick. But I forgot to make my folder. I like making folders. Alright, so the first layer will be the shallow stuff, like all the darker areas, and usually just make the edges darker too, because usually that shows like it's rounded. So you can honestly do this probably with any program. I do use wont, like right now I'm using a darker blue with multiplier using clip art, which I explained that in my other videos. So if you want to go back to my hair video that I did for tablet users, it will be easier than anything. Pretty much what clipping art does is that even though I just went around the edges of it, it's not going outside of the hair because the base of it is where it colors. So if I did this with this blue, it goes outside, but if I clip it, it will stay inside from wherever the base layer is. So that's kind of nice. But you can actually do this with anything. I mean, it just takes time to figure out what your what your programs are, what your programs are and everything. So, next thing I'm going to do is, I'm going to do, like, where the hair flow is. I already kind of sketched it out, so I'm just going to use that, but most of the time I try to, like, you know, do it, like, I'm losing my train of thought. I usually try to do it as I go, but because I was sketching it out, I was just sketching out the flow of it anyways. So, I mean, this is not going to be perfect, and I know a lot of people are going to be like, well, it doesn't look like your tablet stuff. It's not going to look like my tablet stuff. It's probably going to look really weird and everything else. To me, it's going to look really weird because I'm used to my tablet by now. It's been a few years since I actually not used my tablet. I started in GIMP, and so I pretty much did everything in there. I mean, this goes back to, you know, you can do, if you can do it in one program, you can honestly do them in all. I do everything I did in GIMP with Psy. The only thing that really changed is that instead of doing, I'm gonna close that down. Instead of doing overlay for my mode for lightness, I do screen now. So that's the only thing that's different about it. So, but I think I'm going to leave it that way. Not yeah, overlay kind of does a different effect now on Psy, which is understandable, I'm assuming, because, obviously, it's a different program and everything. Yeah, we could do overlay. But, my next scenario would be, I'm kind of going back and forth, I apologize. But, I'm pretty much doing the same steps as I would at a normal, with my tablet pretty much. I'm using the same brushes. It's usually the 4 brushes you'll use for hair, personally, would be brush, pencil, pen, and smear. If you're on GIMP or another program, it might just be brush and smear, or blur, or whatever you want to call it. I used to only use brush and smear, or smudge, whatever you want to really call it. But, yeah, so, I mean, it's honestly possible to do, if you don't personally use Psy, this is why I'm, like, saying, if you don't technically use Psy, don't, like, say, oh, I can't watch your tutorial if you can't I don't use Psy. Well, don't hold yourself back, figure it out. Like, then it's not, you're using your own style to figure it out, and I feel like you'll be more accomplished because you'll be like, hey, I took this from Psy, so maybe if I can do this in Photoshop or whatever program you use, I can do other tutorials that may help me as well. So that's kind of the thing that you want to go for and everything else. Like that positive attitude and everything. And like, same with, not really a different program, but I don't have a tablet. I hear that all the time. Well, I don't have a tablet, so I can't, like, obviously you can't help me. And tablets are so much better. I need to get a tablet for editing. You honestly don't need to get a tablet for editing. Because, you know, it's, tablets are for, honestly, drawing reasons, not for, any reason. And I know people may call me a hypocrite on that, but I feel like if you're gonna get a tablet, actually focus on drawing. Like, you can edit all you want, but I mean, like, how far are you actually gonna edit? How far are you actually gonna be in the roleplay world to actually edit and everything else? And, like, work on your own thing. You'll feel more accomplished if you worked on your own thing than, like, just getting a tablet, then selling it a few years later just because you feel like you can't do anything else. And just because I have heard, oh, well, I can't draw, I suck at drawing. Just because you can't draw in real life, it's not the same online. Like, it's probably 10 times easier. I'm not the best drawer of things. I do traditional art, but I wouldn't say I'm super pro. I'm not good at pencil drawing or anything else. I prefer coloring, and I'm really good at that with both things. Well, I mean, like, it doesn't stop me from, trying to do everything. I really like the clean lines that Psy has to offer. I prefer Psy out of all my other programs that I have used. I tried Photoshop, I don't really care for it or anything else. But I mean, yeah, I would say Psy is pretty good. Because all the brushes on it, it's like from traditional art. So you can like do pen, you can do pencil, you can do brush, you can do, I have my other brushes here that like watercolors, you can do crayon, like, there's so much things you can do and everything, and it would do like the just traditional art, or you can play around, and with the tablet, 10 times easier. So, anyways, back to this. The best thing to do for anything is like knowing where the light starts. I wish I would have known this when I was actually doing hair without a tablet and everything. I'm actually gonna zoom in. But like knowing where all the lights and darks are and not putting them in like random places and everything, it's like 10 times more better than trying to like do it with randomly and everything. And it's so much easier because I can't really remember how my hair looked. I was gonna bring up a picture that how it shows how I used to do my hair and everything else. But I mean, to me, it's probably 10 times better. I wish I would have known the stuff I do now. But that's the thing about improving. Like, I started with GIMP. I honestly went through the whole phase where, everybody went to Photoshop, and if you wanted to be a pro, you had to be on Photoshop, and you're only going to be good if you're on Photoshop. And now everybody thinks, they have to have Psy and everything else. I had a few issues with somebody that kept on saying they need to be in Psy. They need to have Psy. That's like the only way they're going to get good, because everybody's switching to Psy. It doesn't matter what program you use. What matters most is like how you use it. So if like you have Photoshop, you have GIMP, you have working from a phone even, work at it. Do you. If you like it, do you. If you don't like it, then obviously try something different. Do don't just feel like you're stuck because you don't have a computer. Or like it makes it easier. I mean, just like with a tablet, it makes things easier, but you do not need it to be good. Like do stuff that people normally would do. I mean, we all got our own thing to bring to the table. Alright. Actually, this looks 10 times better than my other one. So what I usually do, because technically I would do my shine now, but I'm actually going to go back and do a darker layer, so multi it with the darker blue again. If you didn't notice, I switched to the lighter blue when I did the light shades. So, so I'm just going to kind of go over it again in the darker areas. And I did this a lot when I was doing it without a tablet and everything. Because once you add the light in there and you smear it, it would kind of like, it lost the darkness in it. And so I kind of did this going back and forth, adding layer after layer to get it right. I mean, that's just something you're going to have to do. Good thing to know is that most of the darkness will be on the top and the bottom, having some bit of lines going over, as you can see, and then the lightness should be like in between them. But without a tablet, that's kind of a little bit hard to do, because when you're smearing, it smears everywhere, and it's just not that easy to control like it is on the tablet. I'm using my laptop mouse key, or whatever you want to call it. It's pretty much that mouse pad touch thing that you get from a laptop. When I call it a mouse, people are like, oh, well, you use your like cordless mouse or whatever. It's like, no, I just use like the touchpad of my laptop. Like whatever how you control a laptop, that's the touchpad. You're like, oh, okay. But yeah, I mean, that's pretty much what I do. I think it's a little bit easier because like you're drawing with your finger. I always thought of it as like, you're drawing with your finger. Alright. Actually doesn't look too bad. I'll show you my other one. This was my other one that I did last night. So, try to see a little bit more. It has a little bit more of a texture to it than my other one did. So, and I want to say that just because I'm using um, tools that normally people don't have in their program and everything, it's honestly, it should be the same thing as long as you try. I mean, that smearing doesn't really do much with, no matter what. If you don't have a tablet, your pressure is still going to be the same no matter what brush you use, no matter the size, or whatever you may use, or whatever. I mean, that's just how it is. I mean, it's the same pressure that you're putting down, so it should be fine and everything. And like I said, if it doesn't turn out the way you want it, don't compare it to mine and say, oh, well, it doesn't look like yours, so it must be terrible, or I'm doing something wrong. No, it's not that you're doing something wrong, it's just that you have to figure out your own path. That's all. You gotta figure out your own stuff. Like, if you don't like it, just because it doesn't look like mine, well, maybe you need to do something that you need to do to make it feel better for you. Like, you need to play with it. Like, the best thing you can do, instead of throwing it away, you play with it. You figure it out. You ask questions. You ask for opinions. Just because they don't use the program, they can still give you at least a good idea of what they may do to help you or to make it look better per se. So, like, don't be afraid to ask. I had this question the other day with somebody who kept on, like, throwing her stuff away instead of trying to work from it. It's like, no, don't do that because you're kind of just wasting your time. Just try different things. Like, just try. I mean, get feedback, get whatever, get help, you know, do different methods, try different, whatever you want to do. Just find you. I normally do a hair strand after I do my hair now. I am not going to do that just because it's 10 times harder to do that uh, without a tablet, pretty much. And it looks really wobbly and everything else. I am not going to do that. So, I'm just going to leave it like that. That would be my hair, pretty much. I think I'm going to actually lower this a little bit. Yeah, that would be my hair. I mean, just picture my doodle lines that I got here as like the lines you would do in the hair itself and everything. And you can, inside they have a really nice lining tool that, you can try to do, you can line it and then, put it on overlay or put it on whatever. And it will show that effect of like where your lines are. It will make things pop out a little bit more like you want it to and everything else. And so, I mean, don't just try. I mean, figure out your way. Alright, next thing would be eyes. Eyes are 10 times easier. And I'm still gonna do blue. So, I have yet done my eye tutorial, but so I'll probably just explain everything, hopefully. If you're having trouble keeping up, just try and watch everything. I know I'm not going into super low detail on what I'm doing, but it's still, like, I don't know if I really want to explain everything in every single video or not. I'm still kind of debating if I want to do that. I don't, because it adds like 10, maybe, 10, 5 more minutes than it doesn't need to be if you've already been watching it or whatever. But you can also, I'm doing this pretty slow. It's not going to be sped up that, you should be able to keep up well, I believe. If not, just let me know, and I guess I'll, end up doing it. Alright. So with this one, that sometimes the edges are bad. I'm not really going to be super perfect on this because I'm not going to use it for anything. But when I erase it, then you might not even be able to tell pretty much when it's all said and done. Alright, so I got the base though. What I like to do is that with my normal blue, the thing that I like about art is that, that the styles are different, but the bases of how it gets built are the same. Like for eyes, the three main things is that it has a circle in the middle, whether it be a darker blue than the base color, or a black color for the iris, then it's darker on top and lighter on the bottom. That's pretty much how eyes work. It's just the style that changes. So what I just did is pretty much the iris, and then I'll take my brush tool and just kind of go over the smidge top to the point where, it's covered the top of the circle. Still in the same layer too. And then what I've been doing with my eyes is that I'll go turn around and do a darker layer, or a darker color, and still I'll multiply. I would turn around and still on brush. Maybe I'll make it a little bit bigger. I kind of go halfway, or like You want to keep the flow of the eye. That's always the most important thing. You always want to keep the flow of things. So if the eye is somewhat oval shaped, then try to keep that oval shape the best you can. I try to do like halfway of the eye. I kind of follow the where the eyelashes would be, or like where the top of the eye would be. It might take a couple of tries, obviously, as you can see that I'm not being perfect. And if it not doesn't look perfect, doesn't look perfect. Totally okay. Alright, and then my next thing we do, and like I said, I'm doing the exact same thing as I would do if I were doing it on a tablet. I usually go into my pen tool and do a shadow on a brightness down below, but I'll just stay on my brush tool, seeing that not many people have the pen tool and everything. So you just you don't want to cover up the circle that you made for like the iris, but you just want to go under it. You want to follow the like edge of it to the bottom, and you don't want to go all the way to the top, but you kind of want to go to the edge of where you drew the darker blue before. Alright, the next thing after that, I actually didn't really go into this much detail when I did eyes back on GIMP. I usually did like this far, and then I would add the little white shine to it, and that would be done. Which you can do that too, but I'm just gonna do as if what my normal thing would be for if I had been using my tablet. Alright, and I'm actually gonna switch to the pen tool on this one. You should have, instead of a furry brush, you should have a somewhat, stop turning, a harder edge brush, and like you can tell for side when you switch, you can see that this is on this like edge shape over here, way over here, and on my pencil too, it's way over here. Pretty much showing me how harsh my edges are. So how you determine that is pretty much, go from a furry brush that has like this around it to a more harsher edge. That's how you pretty much what you do for that. So technically you will have for other programs probably a brush, a pencil brush, and blur or smudge tool. Not counting like the bucket fill in and everything else. Alright, so my new thing is kind of like I'll add like lines. I don't really know why. I just started doing it and I was like, oh, I like this. I mean, like, they probably won't look that great. I mean, I don't really know. I mean, I usually determine how stuff looks with, like, when the full picture is done. If I might have to redo something, then I redo it then. Just because things look different once everything is colored. I kind of like blur these in just because, kind of give that, like, it's darker up here, but it's not, you can still, like, somewhat see it. And with it being so far out, you may not even, it may look okay because it's not going to see so weird when it's so close in. The next one is, I'm going to show you a nice little trick. Alright, so I usually do a line around the eye, like the iris, I should say. Well, if you can't draw a nice eye, like if I try to draw around, it could look really bad. Nice thing to do about it is go over the iris, click it a couple of times, over this one, click it a couple of times, and then go to your erase tool on the same size brush, go like inward, and click it until it's gone. And do the exact same thing on the other side. This is how I made like easy moons and everything else when I was in GIMP, just because it was so much simpler than trying to figure out, oh well, how do I make a perfect like moon without it being all freaking weird? So this is honestly just the best way to do it and everything. So, and then it would still give you the same effect that it would as my normal eye. I mean, like, right there. I could draw a perfect circle, but it's improvised and found no way around it. It's not that hard. I mean, if you know your tools, which is why I so focus on, like, knowing your tools, or knowing at least something, playing around with it, is that, you'll find a way, some way. You'll find something. I mean, and you may like it a little bit better. You're like, and then you'll be 10 times your price because you're like, I made this because, I worked at this to get it this way. And maybe you could help somebody else someday. That's always a nice thing. Alright, and then I just do my eyes. Some people, what I kind of did, I can't remember exactly what I did for my other one, like back in GIMP, but I did something like this. I still do this with my eyes now, and that would probably be it. I mean, I know people do eyelashes and everything. It's really hard to do eyelashes without a tablet. Sorry, but I tried last night. I could not get it right at all. So if I hate saying this because I'm the type of person that doesn't like it on edge, but if you do like a pencil, a brush for eyelashes, which I know that's a thing in Photoshop, and probably a thing in GIMP now too, um, might as well. I mean, I personally think they look weird, but it probably, if you can't do it, then I mean, might as well make it look nice. But I mean, like, I also like try to emphasize that doing everything myself and everything. Maybe just the artist in me or whatever. But I think they kind of look weird and everything else too. So I don't. Alright, and I'm just gonna do the back of the eye now. Obviously, it kind of depends on the color. What I usually do, if it's white, I'll do the full white, and then just on a clip layer, or whatever you want to do. I would do just a little bit lighter gray, and just will go. Oh, you want your brush, by the way, not your hard edge tool. You just want to go over the top of it. It doesn't really add much, but it just adds like that shadow of like an eye. And this would be my eye tutorial. So, or my hair and eye tutorial. So as you can see, if you know my style, you know that, this is not exactly how it looks. This is pretty close to my eyes. It honestly is. It doesn't look bad. Eyes are so much easier to do because it's pretty much circle base, so it's super easy. While hair is like all over, it has to be stringy and everything else. It's not super realistic, but if you did it on a full head, it's something to start off with. Something to work at. I really hope you like this tutorial, and I'll see you guys maybe another time. If you have any questions, please ask me on Facebook, add me on Facebook, whatever you want to do, and happy